Did you finish your first block for our Whisk quilt? Then it's time to move on. Hi everyone, Cristin here, and we did our first block for our Whisk You a Merry Christmas quilt. So now it's time to move on. So I loved seeing everyone posting their pictures of the first block in our group. So if you haven't done that, make sure to do that. So our Facebook group, just do a search in Facebook groups for Cristin Creates, and very easy to join. There's a couple of questions just to make sure that we're getting the people that are interested in embroidery. So you answer a couple of questions and then you'll be admitted in. And it's a really great resource. So there is a sale that went into on Kimberbell. On Kimberbell's website, they had a sale, which we all know is a very rare occurrence. And so today and tomorrow, by the time this video is posted, I'm sure it will be over. And so that's what I want to point out is in the group we post that we are going to have this sale on Kimberbell's website, and these are the quilting designs for the entire project. So you can know to purchase those ones if you choose. Like I said in the prep video, don't forget you can use any of the quilting designs in your library, or you can choose to build up your quilting design library. So that sale is happening right now. If you didn't see it on Facebook, the code, and like I said, it's only for the 28th and the 29th, and the code is, I think it was LEAP 29, if I recall. I'm not absolutely sure now, but it's all on that Facebook group. Lots of commentary about that. So make sure to join if you haven't already. The other things I want to ask is make sure to subscribe to this channel, all right? And if you find that you like the content of this channel, then click that like button on the video as well. That helps out the group, helps out the channel. And it helps to take down the messages. I get so many messages of when is the next post going to be, or where's the next video, whatever. If you're subscribed and you click that little bell, then you're going to get notifications whenever a video is posted so that you can stay up on top of the group project. So yesterday we did the very easiest block, simple block. So today we're going to stretch a little bit. Now, like I mentioned yesterday, whenever we do a stretch exercise, it's completely optional. You do not have to do it. So what I'm thinking for today, very simply, we're going to do 2 blocks. So this was block number 3. We jumped and did that one first, but we're going to do blocks 1 and 2, which are the sugar jar and the flour jar. So we're going to do those together, but you have the option of doing them separately. Either way will work totally fine, and don't get stressed if it's too much. Take a couple of days to do it. It takes me longer to do these videos, to do all the filming, all of the photographs, all of the video editing, get it all posted up to YouTube. It takes me longer anyway, so don't stress. You're going to have so much time available. And then don't forget, I've got that break in March coming up that I will have to be off for at least 10 days. So don't stress about it. Do what works for you. You do you. You know, I like to say that. So like I said, sugar jar and flour jar, and I'm going to show you how to merge them together, but you can do them separately. So I'm really just going to merge them together. The quilting designs I'm going to merge together so that it will save some steps, but the biggest thing is it will save on stabilizer and save on time, because I'm going to do them in one hooping. But you have to make sure that you have a hoop big enough to be able to do that. And depending on your machine, I'm not super savvy on my machine as I am with embroidery software. So I'm going to use Embrilliance Essentials. I will add a link here for Embrilliance Essentials. A ton of people in our group have purchased Embrilliance Essentials and love using it. I was really surprised at how much I love it. I'll tell you, when I first started hearing about it, I was like, oh, that sounds hard. I don't think I can do it. And yet I show you step by step every single bit of it. It's so easy. Everybody has gone ahead and done much bigger things with it. It's a very easy to use software, super user friendly. So don't be afraid of it. Use that link that I gave though. It will give a little kickback to this channel to help. And I will show you how to use Embrilliance Essentials. So again, optional. You can do the sugar jar first and then do the flour jar. You can do them in 2 separate hoopings. You can join them together if you choose. Either way will work totally fine. All right, so let's go over, we're going to do them separately. So let's start with the sugar jar, and I'm going to tell you all of the products in it and any substitutions, because I got my box from our sponsor, and so now I can tell you what substitutions that you may have received if you purchased from our sponsor. Which is Your Best Friend's Quilt Shop, by the way. They, like I said in yesterday's video, they're out of supplies, but they do still have the stabilizer and the batting. And please, when you buy the quilting designs, don't forget I said Kimberbell's got this huge sale right now. I think it's 29% off of all of their products, all of the digital downloads, the quilting designs, the vault items, whatever. And if you use that link that is under this video for our sponsor, they get a little kickback from Kimberbell. All right, so we're going to go over all of the different things for today. There's kind of a lot, so stay with me here. Like I said, there's some substitutions and there's some things that we need to know to be prepared for this block. All right, so pull out your sugar jar block. If you made packets, the packets just make it so easy. I love the packets. All right, so pull that out. There's quite a few things in here. I probably have more things in mind than you do, just because I also have the substitutions to let you know. All right, so one of the things I put in here is that chalk pencil. So this is in our embellishment kit. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but I'm going to put it aside so that you can tell me. If I forget to mention it, say, hey, in the comments, tell me you forgot to tell us about the chalk pencil. So our chalk pencil, like I said, is in the embellishment kit, all right, for the We Whisk You a Merry Christmas project. All right, so we're just going to go through each of the fabrics real quick, tell you what size we need and any specific information. All right, so our background fabric, our main fabric is this snowflakes. All right, this is that one. It's kind of hard to see. There you go. Now you can see it. So the snowflake fabric, and we are going to start with this at 6.5 by 8.5. And it is really important on your main fabric to make sure to back this with fusible stabilizer. All right, and so on this one, what I did, since it's kind of hard to tell front from back, I cut my stabilizer a little bit smaller. Actually, I really didn't on this one. I think I already had it on this one now that I think about it. That's one nice thing is if you put the stabilizer on the entire fabric and cut out the piece that you need and then save the rest, then when you pull it out, it's already all ready. I like that. So this one looks like it was already ready because I can't really see the edges. I can see just a little bit. But when you do that, when you make it so that you can see the edges, it helps to know front from back. All right, so this is that snowflake fabric, and like I said, 6.5 by 8.5. Make sure to stabilize your main fabric, okay? I stabilize pretty much all of my fabrics, but some people choose to just do the main fabric, so that's up to you. You do you. All right, so the next one is the jar. So the jar is this green plaid fabric, and I did back mine with fusible stabilizer. See that there's that 1/4 inch seam allowance, but that's optional. Some people don't choose to stabilize their applique fabrics. I do. So on this one, this is the jar. This fabric is, I believe, discontinued because our sponsor didn't have it. So I'm assuming it's discontinued. And I bought my package years ago. So that's why I still have it. But I have the substitution. Our sponsor sent me some of it so that I could tell you. So, and look how close it is, right? And it's really pretty, actually. I like the new design. That's pretty fun. So you probably, if you bought from our sponsor, you probably received this green plaid. It's just a tiny bit different than the original one. No problem at all. So on this, it's for the jar. And we want this to be 4.5 by 4, all right? 4.5 by 4 for the jar fabric, all right? And like I said, I did back mine with fusible stabilizer. That's up to you. All right, and then the next one is the lid accent and handle. So it is this pink with darker pink flowers on it. It is not a directional fabric. You can see that the flowers go either which way. It doesn't matter. So this one this is for the lid accent and the handle. We want it to be 3 by 5. And again, I did back mine with fusible stabilizer. That's totally up to you. It makes it easier to cut. I know I'm not going to get puckering. I like to do that. Totally up to you. All right, lid accent and handle is 3 by 5. Okay. And then the next one is this red scroll fabric. And we have 2 pieces of this, so make sure to have them. You can see that they are different. So I'm going to go over them one by one. The first one is for the lid, and it is 4 by 2, so that means it's going to go this way. So 4 by 2, this is for the lid. It's a red scroll. I did back mine with fusible stabilizer. That's up to you. 4 by 2 for the lid. And then the same fabric, you can see it's just a little longer. All right, and that one, the longer one, is for the base. All right, so the base one is going to be 5 by 2. All right, this way, 5 by 2. All right, for the base of the jar. All right, 5 by 2. I backed mine with fusible stabilizer, up to you. All right, and then the next fabric is the chalkboard fabric. So I have to tell you, this is supposed to be in your embellishment kit, and it wasn't in mine. And I was really lucky that I happened to have some. So the chalkboard fabric, you do not want to back this with fusible stabilizer. Leave it as is. It is a vinyl, a specialty vinyl, so that you don't, it's got a backing on it. You don't need to stabilize this. All right, but we do need to prepare this, and I haven't done mine yet, so I wanted to make sure to point it out. So first off, so many messages today, oh my goodness, sorry. Chalkboard fabric, we want 3.5 by 3, so a little bit wider, 3.5 by 3 for our chalkboard fabric. This is for the label. Now the label, if you recall, I was telling you in the prep video that you have an option to use this chalkboard fabric that is supposed to be in the embellishment kit, or you can use a regular fabric. And they gave you an option with the black and with the white dots, black fabric with the white dots. So again, 3.5 by 3, whether you're using the chalkboard fabric or a regular fabric, is totally up to you. I actually am going to do something a little different with mine. So the reason that they gave those two options, so you can choose to prep your chalkboard fabric, which I'm going to do either way. I recommend doing either way. But you can use this to write sugar on there. We're on the sugar jar. You can write it in your own writing if you choose, or you can use that regular fabric and you can use the stitching that will be included on the design, and it will type out the sugar for you. The embroider will embroider the word sugar for you. So either one of those will work. At this point, I'm actually leaning toward using the chalkboard fabric and yet using the embroidery part that says sugar, because the way that they have it written is really cute. I don't think I could write it quite as cute. So I was kind of thinking that I'm going to use the chalkboard fabric, which is the plain black chalkboard vinyl, and I'm going to use the embroidery design on it. That's what I'm thinking, but I'm still going to prep it because I could write over it. I could embellish on it, write a little heart on there, something like that. You can still use it as a chalkboard fabric if you choose. So that's what I'm leaning toward. Totally optional. You can use this and write it yourself. That will be super cute. You can use a regular fabric, the black with white dots, or just a plain black fabric, and use the embroidery design to write the sugar on it. Either way is fine, but I am going to prep my fabric. I'll tell you about that. Let me just tell you right now, and then I'll also show it in videos or in photos, sorry. So we have to prepare the chalkboard fabric. I've never used it before. I bought it for a specific purpose, but I never used it. So you're going to rub chalk all over the entire purpose. Don't forget, we got our chalk pencil, right? So you're going to rub this all over that entire surface, and then we're going to wipe it off with a dry cloth, and then we are going to put a pressing cloth over it and iron it, all right? Probably seals it in somehow. All right, so iron the chalkboard fabric with a pressing cloth, and then we're going to use it just like a fabric. All right, we're going to put it down, and I'll show you that part in pictures. We're just going to put it down just like a fabric and stitch it down and cut it and do all of the things. All right, one thing is make sure that you have a white bobbin, your regular white bobbin in there when you're stitching out the white wording. If you're using a different colored wording, you want that bobbin to be the same. When you're using a vinyl like this, it's best to have your bobbin be the same color as the thread color that you're going to use. It'll help it stand out a little better. All right, so that's all the things that we need. And then batting, don't forget your batting. So the batting for this one is going to be, let's see, our final cut size is 4.5 by 6.5. So that means we want batting that is 5 by 7, 5 by 7 for your batting. And on here, I want to mention, so don't forget 5 by 7 for your batting. And then there are special cut instructions on here, and I don't want you to get too held up on this. So it tells you to have it this way, and the bottom of the jar is going to sit a 1/2 inch above the cut edge, blah, 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 all this stuff. Since we are quilting in the hoop, it's going to show us that 1/4 inch seam allowance. We do not need to worry about any of that. I'll still show it in photos that it comes out accurate, so you don't worry about it, but don't spend too much time stressing over that. There are special cut instructions, but since we're quilting in the hoop, it's going to work out that way anyway, so don't worry. All right, I showed you yesterday how to use those pop rulers, so we're going to do that same thing. I'll show that in photos. I'm not going to do a video every day of me cutting, but I will show you in photos that our final cut size is going to be 4.5 by 6.5. So that is the first block we're going to do. That is Sugar Jar on page 9 of our Whisk book. All right, and then I'll come back to you in just a minute, and we're going to work on the flower jar. All right, now don't forget I said that you can do the sugar jar in its own hooping, and then you can do the flower jar. So I'm going to go over the flower jar parts now, but I am going to try and merge them together, and I'll show you how to do that using software. All right, so pull out your flower jar packet. This one has a lot of substitutions as well, so I will point those out for anyone that purchased from our sponsor. That I told you right from the beginning, there will very likely be substitutions because these fabrics are older and retired from Kimberbell, and so they were nice enough to find substitutions for us. All right, so I will tell you what those are. Don't forget you're going to need your chalk pencil again for this one. All right, so our main fabric is in the original is this gray with the words on it. All right, and we're going to start with this at 6.5 by 8.5. Make sure to back your main fabric with fusible stabilizer. All right, 6.5 by 8.5 for our main fabric. Now, if you bought from our sponsor, they were nice enough to offer the substitution of a gray lined fabric. Now notice that this is directional, just like this is a directional fabric. So you're going to want your stripes going down, just like how the words are, okay? And really, that's your choice. If you want your lines going the other way, that's okay too. Either way, but you will receive this fabric. It is the gray awning fabric, I believe it's called. And again, 6.5 by 8.5 backed with fusible stabilizer for your main fabric. All right, that's the substitution for this one. Okay. And then next we have the jar. So the jar is that pink with darker pink flowers on it. And this one we are going to have at 4.5 by 5.5. I did back mine with fusible stabilizer, 4.5 by 5.5 for your jar fabric, okay? And no substitutions on that. And then the next one is the lid accent and handle. So this one is the green floral fabric, all right? I did back mine with fusible stabilizer, up to you. So on this one, there is a substitution. Let me first tell you the size is 4.5 by 3, all right? So it shows it this way, actually. So that means it's that top piece and then that little handle. Lid accent and handle. So 4.5 by 3 for this fabric, and there is a substitution, and look at how pretty this is. I love this. Isn't that pretty? That's the new doodle fabric. So that is the substitute for this one, which this one was from Make Yourself at Home, that quilt that I never finished. I still have that one staring at me. I just need to stitch in the ditch and do the embellishments. I don't know why I have not had time to do that one. So anyway, so if you bought the original packet then, or the original fabric kit, then it came with this one. If you bought it just recently, then this is most likely your substitution. All right, so either way, 4.5 by 3 backed with fusible stabilizer. If you do that for your appliques, totally optional. All right, and then the next one is the lid. So the lid and the base are the same fabric like before. That you can see that one's just a little bit longer and thinner. All right, so we'll start with the lid. So the lid is this awning fabric. It is a directional fabric. It has the lines going down, as you can see, in a vertical pattern. But again, up to you, but that is how they show for the cutting. So on this one, it is 4 by 2. I did back mine with fusible stabilizer, totally up to you. The awning fabric 4 by 2. And then the base is the same one, still in that directional fabric, and this one is 4.5 by 1.5, so a little thinner and a little longer, 4.5 by 1.5 of this awning fabric. Now on both of these, there is a substitution, and the substitution that our sponsor came up with is this green scroll, can get that out, green scroll fabric, all right? And that will work great, and it's easier because it's not a directional fabric. So this is what you would use if you have your substitution from our sponsor. So again, the lid is 4 by 2 and the base is 4.5 by 1.5. All right, well, either of these fabrics, or if you're using your own fabric stash, either way. All right, and then we have that chalkboard fabric, and I told you how to prepare that. We're gonna put chalk all over it, clean it off with a rag, and then we are going to set it by covering it with a pressing cloth and ironing it. All right, before we use it. So again, you can use that, I already put it away, but that black with white dot fabric if you're going to use fabric, or you can use this chalkboard fabric. All right, and we're going to use that chalk pencil that we have. So on this one, our chalkboard fabric for the label is going to be 3.5 by 3. 3.5 by 3 for this, and it's in the embellishment kit, or at least it's supposed to be. All right, and then for the batting, so batting, let's see, our final cut size is 4.5 by 6.5, just like the sugar jar. So that means we want a piece of batting that is 5 by 7. This is for the flower jar, our second block. It's number 2 block. It's on page 9. The batting is going to be 5 by 9. All right, and just like the sugar jar, our flower jar has special cut instructions, but again, you do not need to stress over that. I'm going to show you how it works out because we're quilting in the hoop, so it will be just right using our pop rulers. All right, so like I said, I'm going to put both of these in one hooping. You have to have a large enough hoop for that, and it's a lot easier in my opinion with embroidery software, but you might choose to do it using your machine, or you can do them separately. Excuse my dogs. So anyway, we are going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to bring you over to the computer, and I'm going to show you how to merge them together if you choose using embroidery software. So let's get started. We have 2 blocks today. Are you excited? And I completely forgot, I'm sorry. So we are going to use Hobby 5 quilting design. That's what I'm going to use on both of these. So Hobby 5 for the sugar jar and for the flower jar. Our quilting design is going to be 4 by 6, whichever quilting design you choose. That one we used yesterday, Hobby 1, that would work great on this block as well. Hobby 5 is really fun. Hobby 5 has the flour and the butter, the rolling pin, a measuring cup, an egg, and stipple. It will be super cute. So I'm going to use that on the sugar jar and on the flower jar both. All right, 4 by 6 quilting design. Hi everyone, I am at my computer now, and I am going to show you how to merge 2 blocks in one hooping if you choose. So we're going to do the sugar jar and the flower jar. I'm going to open up Embrilliance Essentials. That is the embroidery software that I prefer. I use it on pretty much everything now. I really like it. It's so user-friendly, so easy to work with. So when you open it up, I'm going to go ahead and just move it over here so that my head is not in your way. All right, so it opens up to the last hoop size that you used, and you can see I'm on my 8 by 8 hoop now. And I'm thinking I'm going to try my 8 by 12 and just see what will fit. I don't know at this point. I have not started to test this yet. So when you open up Embrilliance for the first time, your screen is probably white or yellow. I don't recall. It's not pink, but I changed mine in the Preferences folder. So in this Preferences folder, which we're going to open anyway to change our hoop size, there's a lot of different things that you can do here to personalize it, and I made mine a light pink, all right? So I'm going to start by choosing my hoop size. I'm going to choose this 8 by 12, and you can also add hoops. So down here at the bottom, you can see I added a 6 by 6 hoop and a 10 by 10 hoop, and you can do that by these simple buttons to add whatever you need, but it does come with the basics. So here's the 8 by 12. I'm going to say okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to this compass button. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on H for hoop, and it will zoom in just to the hoop so that I can make sure to utilize these hoop marks. So the yellow lines all the way around, that's our hoop mark. You can also use your mouse to scroll in or out. Either way will work, but you want to make sure that your design does not go over these hoop marks. It will usually tell you, and it'll come down here, it'll show you red saying, oh, you're outside of the hoop. but I have had it happen where it didn't tell me quite enough and I sent it to my machine and it was a problem. So always try to make sure that your design is within the hoop. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by bringing in the quilting design. So I'm going to use Hobby 5 for both quilting blocks. So you could do Hobby 5 on the sugar jar and Hobby 1 on flower jar. You can have them be different if you choose. I want them to be the same, and that actually will make it easy on here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to start by this merge stitch file button right here, all right, right up here. I'm going to click on that. You can do it that way, or you can open up the file where you know that you have it and drag it over. Either way will work fine. So right now it's just asking, where is this file that you want me to open? So I'm going to close up a few of these. I thought I put it, oh, I know what I did. I put it at the very top of my folder here. So we whisk you a Merry Christmas. So like I said, it's just asking, well, yeah, I'll be happy to open this for you. Where is it? All right, so it's just asking you that. And so I have mine on my D drive since my C drive is completely full, and I've got it under embroidery files to organize. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the quilting files. And you know what? Let's see. I didn't download it yet. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. So I had to go and download my purchase of the Hobby 5 design. So since I did that, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to load it that way, since there have been questions, people, especially with fonts. So here is where when you download a design from a seller, it comes as a zipped file. So here's my zipped file. I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to click this extract all button, all right? And while that extracts, then I'm going to just drag it over. But in the fonts, I just want to say you just drag over the BX fonts. That was a question earlier in our group today. And I do have a video showing how to do that. But since I just got this design, I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to do it. So I extracted it. Here's the extracted file. I'm going to click on the original, the zipped file, and I'm going to delete that one just so I don't get confused. And then on here, I'm going to open this and open up the embroidery files. I'm going to use the block by block. Like I mentioned earlier, that we're doing the block by block technique. And then I always go and I delete the ones that don't work with my machine. My machines both use PEZ machines. So rather than fill up my hard drive, I'm going to go ahead and just delete those. I'm going to move this folder over. I'm going to double click on it. Now remember, I said we want the 4x6 quilting design. So here's the 4x6, and I just recently purchased Thumbnailer, and I want to show you what that does. So look at it, shows you the designs. How cool is that? I'm going to do a video on specific about Thumbnailer, but I think it's so cool that you can see the designs for your machine. All right, so I'm looking for the 4x6. Let's see, there's 4x8, so it's a head right there. So 4x6, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just simply going to drag it over to the Embrilliance Essentials workspace. You can see it still stays in my folder, but I've dragged it over and it copied it to my workspace. So that's what I wanted to show you. The other way is obviously to go to merge stitch files and then navigate to where that file is and click open that way. But since I had it just recently downloaded, I wanted to show you just extract it, and then the one that you're going to use for your machine, drag it over to your workspace. All right, so there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this. And notice, so we've got the 5 steps of the design. So the first step is the placement of the batting. The second one is the tack down of the batting. The third one is the placement of the main fabric. The fourth one is the tack down of the main fabric, or also known as the basting stitch. And then there's our quilting design. So there's the 5 steps. You get those 5 steps whenever you open the block by block method. If you do the CBT method, then you are only getting this last part, this quilting design only. So we are definitely using the block by block method. All right, so I clicked outside. So you can click outside in this objects window, or you can click on the workspace. I'm just doing that so that nothing is selected, because we were on here before. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the whole thing. So I just did it this way. The other way is that you can click down and drag up. Either way works, or even just click on this first part. You just want all of the 5 parts selected. All right, and then what I'm going to do, I am actually going to rotate this I'm going to click this rotate button right here. It doesn't matter which way because you can see it's not a directional design. So I'm going to click on that, and then I have to click outside of the workspace and then click on the design again. Once you rotate it, you have to redo that. And then I'm going to use the arrow buttons on my keyboard, and I'm just going to move it up and out of the way. All right. So I want to point something out here. See all these default blues and default oranges. If I don't change those are going to merge together when I do a color sort. I'm going to do a color sort because I'm going to have two of the same designs together. And so I want to be able to save some time. But if I don't change these colors, then they will join together because they're the same. Default one blue and default one blue, those are going to join together. And if it does, then you've taken away the opportunity to have that stop, the placement and the tack down of the main fabric, the placement and the tack down of the batting. You want to have those stops, and that's why they are different. And when we join it together, we want to make sure that they're different. So I'm going to just very quickly show you how to do this super easily. I'm going to change all of them because there will very likely be the default one blues in the sugar and jar designs, but actually I'm only going to make changes. I'm only going to join together the quilting design, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to just go through them. It's super quick to do. So I'm going to click on this first one. All right, see, I've got 1 selected, and then I come down here to the properties window and click on that color, and then the colors come up. So I'm just going to click on the very first one just to save on time, and that for me, that's Filtech Glide Dark Aqua. It doesn't matter what color it is, you just want to make sure that the parts that you want to join are the same color and the parts you don't want to join are a different color. All right, so Dark Aqua, say okay. And then same thing for number 2. So I'm on 1, 2, click on the color, and then I'm going to choose the first color that comes up, which for me is Blaze, and say okay. And then 1, 3, click on the color, and I want this to be different. I don't want these to join together. So I'm going to choose Marine, the second color down, and say okay. And then 1, 4, click on the color, and it's Oriole for me. So you can see that my default is Filtech Glide. You can change that here in this preferred. You can change what your preferred is. I use Filtech Glide very often with our Kimberbell project, so I have that as my default. So I'm going to click on the second color down, which is Oriole, and say okay. And then this default 17 turquoise, you don't need to change this because they're going to be the same, but I'm going to go ahead and just do it anyway, just because it's easy. So I'm going to click on the color, and the first color that comes up is Sprout, and that one I do want to join, so I'm going to keep Sprout on both of them. All right, I'm going to click outside of the workspace. That's all done. You want to do the change of the colors first before we do a copy and paste to get the second design, because remember, we're doing one for sugar jar and then we're doing one for flower jar, so we want this all again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this, the whole design, make sure you've got all of it, and I'm going to say Control C on my keyboard, C like copy, and then I'm going to hit Control V like victory to paste it, and it goes right on top of that first one. You can see here that it's there. On here you can't tell because it's right on top, but we have 2 designs now instead of 1. So from here I'm just going to click my arrow keys, and I'm going to bring this down. So we were originally in my 8x8 file, and I bet you this would have fit. Let's see, 4, it would have been a little tight, but a 9x9 would work, 7x12 would work, 8x12, any of these are going to work fine to get these 2 designs. You just want to have enough space between that your fabrics aren't super overlapping, because that can get stressful. All right, so I'm just bringing this down, making sure not to go over that hoop. All right, that's down there. I'm going to bring it up 1. All right, so make sure that you can see the edges, then you know you're not over your hoop at all. And we have these already color sorted. So you can see, well, I shouldn't say they're color sorted, they're ready to be color sorted. So you can see on the 1, 1 and 2, 1, they're the same color because we're going to do a placement on both of them, saving some time. And then same with 1, 2 and 2, 2, they're the same for the tack down. And then the 1, 3 and 2, 3, the same for our main fabric. And the tack down of our main fabric for 2, 4 and 1, 4. Those are joined together. Now this, if you're doing, so you have to look at your background fabric, and in fact, that's a really good point. So to think about what I want to do here. So on Sugar Jar, we're using that white fabric that has the snowflakes on it. And for Flower Jar, it's on that light gray fabric. So actually, I think I'm going to give myself a stop and change my thread color. I likely will use that super light gray, that cool gray 3 on this first one, and I might use it on Flower Jar 2 also, but I might choose not to. There's a darker gray in our thread pack, I believe, so I'm going to give myself that option. So to make it stop so that I can change my thread color, all I'm going to do is on this 2-5, I'm clicking just on 2-5, and I'm going to change that color, because then it won't join, right? So we've got Sprout on the first one. I'm going to click the next color down, which is Sea Green, and say okay. So then it's going to stop, all right? And now, if you're already pretty experienced with Embrilliance and your own ability for placing fabrics and such, you could go ahead and bring in the Sugar Jar design and the Flower Jar design and have them, because really, if you think about it, the fabrics are different, but the steps are the same as far as the Sugar Jar and Flower Jar, and then the lid accents and the lid and the base. You could do those all together super easily, super easily. I'm very tempted to do that. So for those that are, I had to think about this. I want to make it easy for you, not scare people away, but you could definitely do those both together. Or you can do just the quilting together and then do the Sugar Jar separate and the Flower Jar separate, so that the photos will be the same for the people that are not joining them together. I think I'm going to go ahead and join them, sorry. But I'm thinking that I'll just say on the tutorial, place your fabric for the Sugar Jar, then place your fabric for the lid accent. It's the same process. So, and this will save us a lot of time if we do them all together. So I'm actually going to do that. So I'm going to bring in the Sugar Jar and the Flower Jar together. So I'm going to show you a little bit more. So this is a little bit more of a stretch exercise than I initially planned, but I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So if I go to Merge Stitch File right here, and I'm going to show you to find that design. So I'm going to go to We Wish You a Merry Christmas that I have saved on my computer, and the embroidery files, and I have Pez, there's the quilt, and I'm looking for the Sugar Jar. Let's see, where is my Sugar Jar? There's the Flower Jar. So they're in alphabetical order by size. There it is. So Sugar Jar right there. If I double click on that, it brings it to the center, and we need to center it with that design. So to see this blue line up here, that is why I was telling you that as long as we're quilting in the hoop, we don't have to worry about lining up it for the final cut size, because this is centering it in the design anyway. So I hope that makes sense. This is just a placement stitch to be able to, it's like, what do you call it? It's a digitizing step to be able to have that Sugar Jar be down at the bottom rather than having it be centered. I hope that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to double click on that, or not double click, I'm going to single click on this, and then I'm going to go ahead and rotate it. And I'm going to see how easy it is to move it. Let's just see if it's easy to decide where it should go. I'm going to first check that. No, it's not easy. So I am going to, let's see here, use the 4x6 design. That Sugar Jar seems awfully big, doesn't it? 5x7. All right, so I'm going to do something here. Oops, sorry, I zoomed in by mistake. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you another little simple thing that will help. So if I click on this first design, all right, you can see I've got all 5 steps of that first design, and then I click the control button on my keyboard and click on this third design, which is that Sugar Jar. Then I can go up here to Utility, and I'm going to go to Align and Distribute. I only want those 2 things, that first quilting design and the third design, which is the Sugar Jar. So I'm going to click Align and Distribute, and I'm going to, let's see, I have to remember how to do this. It's been a while. I'm going to try center, center, and I think it'll move both of them, but that's okay. We can move them back. So center, center, and you can see it moved the whole design just a tiny, tiny bit. All right, if I had not moved it, it would have shown you more of a change, but that's okay. Let's see here. Hold on just a second. Okay, so I found a little issue that I want to show you. So I have the quilting design. So this is the one that we were working on, and I opened up a separate one to test this. So I want to show you. If I go to Merge Stitch File and I bring in that sugar jar, I'm just going to show you. So it's different on the newer. Remember that this is an older design. So when I click on this sugar jar, it brings it to the center, and of course it's centered because of that placement stitch, right? So same thing with the other one. Let me show you the flower jar. I've already moved this one, so I'm going to delete this so that you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to bring in that flower design, the flower embroidery design. All right, it should just automatically go to the center. That's how all of the newer quilts do. But notice that this is not right, okay? It is centered. If you click on the design, it is centered. You can see from these black squares. But when we cut this file, when we cut this block, the whole bottom of this flower jar is going to be cut off. So we need to move this. And so what I found is I counted it out and I measured it, and I'll show you real quick. So if I click on just the flower jar, you don't want your quilting design to move. You want your quilting design there to stay there. We're going to move the flower jar and the sugar jar to center it correctly. So if we move this, I'm going to go ahead and count it out because I already figured it out, and it's 17 clicks. So if you're on Embrilliance Essentials, I already figured it out for you. You're just going to go 17 clicks up. All right, on our original one, it's sideways, so we'll work on that in a moment. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right, and the reason I know that it's correct, let me show you. So if I click outside, you can see that this is obviously not within our design anymore, but we want, according to the directions, we want the finished block. We want the bottom of the jar to sit a ½ inch above the cut edge. So we know that this is a 1/4 inch, so we need a 1/4 inch from there. So there's a ruler in here in Brilliance Essentials. If I click on that ruler and click on this bottom edge here, and then bring it up to the bottom edge of the jar, over on the left hand side of the corner, I can't show you because I'm holding my mouse button, but over on the left hand, right over here, I let it go so that I can show you where. Watch over here where my cursor is. So if I click on this bottom part here and then up to the bottom of that jar, see where it says it's a 1/4 inch? The other way of doing it is from the very bottom, the very end of the design, all the way up to the bottom edge of that jar. You can see it's a ½ inch. So that's where we want this design to land. We want it to be a 1/4 inch above the batting line or a ½ inch from the cut line, which is the placement and basting stitch of the design, which puts this outside of the design. So we're going to have to take that out. Again, remember that this was created before the quilting, and that's why it's off. All of the newer quilts are already predetermined with the digitizing to be able to center this correctly, but it's not done on this one. I didn't realize that when we started. So here we go again for the sugar jar. Click on just the sugar jar, not the quilting design, and you can tell in here that this number 1 is our quilting design, that is not selected. Number 2 is all selected. So again, it is 17 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And all I'm doing is I'm clicking the up button on the up arrow key, all right? And then I'm going to go ahead and measure again. So from the bottom of the batting line to the bottom of the design, and you can see down in that bottom left-hand corner, we're at a 1/4 inch. And then from the bottom, I'm going to click outside just so you can see it a little better because I've got the design selected. All right, the ruler button, from this bottom of the basting stitch to the bottom of the design, holding it as straight as possible. Let me do that again. from the bottom of this design to the bottom of there. So see in the bottom lower left corner, it says it's a 1/2 inch. So that's where we want our design. It's 17 clicks up. All right, and then we'll have to take this out. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to our original. I'm going to turn off this ruler. I'm going to go back to our original one. And this time, since it's sideways, it's going to be left arrow keys. All right. So right now I have hobby 5 and number 3 selected because I was going to align it that way, but it doesn't actually work because of that blue line. You could take that out and then center it, but that's definitely an option. I didn't even think of that. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to click on the sugar jar. Make sure you just have the third part of the design. I'm going to click the left arrow key up 17 times. Left arrow key now because it's turned sideways. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right. So we know that we have our 1/2 inch, but look at our blue line. We will not be able to run this design because it is over the hoop. At least my machine will go, no, I can't do it. So we have to make sure to take that out. But I just wanted to point out about the sizing. So we want it to be from the bottom of that jar edge to the last part of the design. And right there, 1/2 inch. All right, so we've got our 1/2 inch. So that is in the right placement, but we'll have to take out that blue stitch there. All right, so now I'm going to bring in, I hope I haven't completely confused you. Don't forget that you can do this, just the sugar jar and the quilting design. You don't have to merge these together, but even whether you're doing it together or not, you are going to have to move that sugar jar. All right, we will have to move it. And I don't know if on your machine, if you're not using software, I don't know if on your machine that 17 clicks is the same as Embrilliance, but bottom line is you want it to be 1/4 inch up from the batting. This is this inner line here, this is our batting, or 1/2 inch, same difference, 1/2 inch from the very bottom of the design. All right, so this is the very bottom of the design, and I'll show it here so you can see it better. So the placement stitch and tack down for the batting is right there. And the placement and tack down of the main fabric is here. That's the bottom of the design, the farthest point of the design. So 17 clicks up from there, or 1/2 inch if it, I don't know about the clicks on your machine. So check to make sure that it's 1/2 inch up from there, okay? I hope that makes sense. All right, I'm going to go back to this. This one is done except for that blue line. I'm going to bring in that flower jar. I'm going to go to Merge Stitch File and go to Quilt, and I'm going to find the flower jar right there, double click on it, it goes to the center. I'm going to click on that flower jar and I'm going to rotate it right here, and then I need to click outside and click back on that flower jar to be able to move it. So I can, if I move it with my arrow keys, it keeps it centered, which actually doesn't really matter because we're going to have to, let's see, so the way that we got it centered before is that align and distribute, because we also want it centered this way. I'm going to do that. So I am going to see how this, you can see it's centered correctly. If I click on that design, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close these up. I'm going to click on 2 and 4. So 2 is that quilting design. You can see that highlighted. And then I'm going to click the control button and click number 4, which is the flower jar. I'm going to go to Utility, Align and Distribute, and I'm going to say Center, Center, just so that it centers the design correctly, and then we'll have to move it. I'll show you in a moment. So I click Apply and see how it moved it up a little bit. So that now we know it's centered in that direction, but then we need to move it to the left to have it up, because right now we would cut off the bottom of our flower jar. All right, so we have that part done, so that's perfect. It's still highlighted, but both of them are highlighted. So be very careful here. Click outside of the workspace and then click on number 4. The 4th design is the flower jar. And then we want that left key 17 times in Embrilliance. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And you can do it that way, or you can move it yourself and then just measure. You just want to make sure that you are measuring from the bottom of the flower jar to the bottom of the basting stitch for that 1/2 inch. And in the left hand corner, you can see I'm at a 1/2 inch. So I've got it measured correctly. So I already figured out that 17. That does make it a little easier, I hope. All right, so now that's really all done. We didn't do a color sort. Probably should have done it on just the quilting designs, because now there's going to be a lot of stuff in here. So see all these cyan and orange, that's going to be a lot. We can quickly go through and change the color so that they're all together, or we could do them separately. But either way, we want that blue line out. Let's see, it's probably the last, yeah, it is the last step. So right there, we want to take that out. This is 318. I'm just going to click delete on my keyboard because you can see it is over the hoop line. So it will be a problem. Either way, it's going to be a problem. So let me see on this way. If you're doing it in a single hooping and you have a big enough hoop, then it'll just run on the stabilizer. You can leave it in then. I hope I'm not completely confusing you. All right, number 4, same thing. Open it up, and we want that last step. This 18th step, we want to delete that. All right, we do not want that step. Okay, and then, like I said, it's got all these cyans and oranges. I'm thinking that's going to be a lot to try in our tutorial, so I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to just merge together the quilting designs. So to do that, let me think for a second here. I think I'm just going to move, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. All right, so I'm going to do this. So I'm going to do File, New Page, and then I'm going to go back to that design, and I am going to, let's see, I think I'll do just the 2. So I'll do 1 and 2. So from the right, I clicked and moved over, and I've got 1 and 2. I'm going to go to Untitled 4. I'm going to say Control C while I'm on this window here. Control C to copy those 2 quilting designs. Go to number 4 and say Control V. Now on this, I can easily do a color sort because I have just the ones that I've already changed the colors on. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to Utility Color Sort for these 2. Color sort, and it changes it. Right now we've got 10 color steps, and you can see that it's reduced it by 4 color changes. Make sure that you have the same settings as I have here. All right, this RHS is not selected, force applique, position of material are not selected, and tolerance is at 0. If you want the same settings that I have, make sure you've got the same. If you want the same results, make sure you have the same settings. All right, and then I'm going to click New View. It'll open a new tab. You can see I'm on tab 4 right now. I'll get a 5th tab, and then it just gives me the opportunity to check it because it merged those 2 together. All right, so there's our placement of our batting all together. Excuse Archer shaking here. Tack down of the batting, placement of the main fabric, tack down of the main fabric, and then I have my 2 quilting designs separated. Lily, so that it will stop for me to change the thread color. All right, so that one is great. That is all done. Now I need to bring in that sugar and flour jar that we already moved to the right position. So I'm just going to click down from the bottom and go up so that I have just number 3 and number 4 selected. And I'm going to say Control C to copy it. And I'm going to go to that Untitled tab that I already merged. I just have one design at this point. I'm going to say Control V, and notice what it does. It brings it right to the exact location we already set up. It doesn't change any of that, so it's all perfectly aligned. And like I said, you can go in and change each of the colors and do all of the jar together, all of the what do you call it, the label. You could do all of those together very easily, but being that this is new to our the start of our project, I don't want to overwhelm you too much. So I'm just going to join just the quilting design, and then I'll do, after I run through that quilting design, I'll do all of the sugar parts, which will make it easy for those of you that are doing the sugar jar separately and the flour jar separately. You'll see all of the photos for the sugar jar and then all of the photos for the flour jar. So they will be separated after the quilting. All right, so this is all done. And it's all ready to go. Make sure that you have it right before you send it to your machine, because then you can't make the changes. Once you've done your color sort, you're pretty much out of luck. So make sure that you move your design to where it's supposed to be, that both the flour jar and the sugar jar do have to be moved. I wasn't aware of that when I started this tutorial. All right, so like I said, it was 17 clicks to the left if you've got the 2-in-1 hooping. If you are doing them separately, it's still 17 clicks, but it's up to the top on both of these, 17 clicks up. All right, and then take out that that digitizing step right there. All right, and then we've got it all ready to go. So I'm going to say File, Save Stitch File As, and I'm going to put it in, let's see, Embroidery Files to Organize. We Whisk, and Embroidery Files, Pez, Quilt. All right, and then here is, make sure you're on the format for your machine. Mine is Pez. So I'm going to name this Sugar and Flour Merged. Whatever is going to help you to locate your file. You could even start it, I'm on my 8x12 hoop. So I'm going to name that just so I remember what hoop to use, 8x12 Sugar Flour Merged. And then save it. I'm saving it in my Whisk file so that I can find it easily. And if you have a machine, this is when you would transfer it to your USB stick. If you have a machine that is Wi-Fi ready, you can send it, especially what is it, XP1, the Brother XP1 or the Baby Lock Solaris. You can send that super easily. There's other machines that it will work as well. But I'm going to go ahead and just send it to my machine. And it says File Sent to Machine. If you don't have that option, you would just put in your USB stick and copy it over to your USB stick. All right, let's get stitching this. Hey everyone, so I thought it was all done. It's so funny. I just packed up my camera and my ring light, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I did my filming. I totally forgot to tell you about my goal. So how are you doing with your goal? Don't forget to comment in this YouTube video, preferably, because it helps the channel when you comment and like on the videos. But I want to hear how your goal is doing, what your goal is, how it's going. I would love to hear about that. So I told you about how I got into cycling yesterday and ended up doing my first 100-mile ride, which was with MS, doing a sponsored ride through MS, collecting money and helping donate for that. So then one thing I forgot to mention is, so I was riding alone the first 3 weeks of getting my new bicycle. That was my first time ever having a road bicycle, and I'm riding by myself like almost every day, just riding by myself. And I had seen a bike club, and I didn't know it was a bike club. I just saw this big group of people. I was clueless, didn't know anything. But anyway, I saw this group of cyclists several times and didn't even realize that it's obviously a local bike club that I could join. It never even occurred to me. Well, one of the days I'm out on that Coyote trail and I'm riding pretty long distances, getting ready for that 100-mile ride, which I thought was just so cool to be able to do a 100-mile ride. So I was working really hard toward that goal. And one day I came upon a mountain lion. So very few people ever will see a live mountain lion and probably be thankful for that. It's pretty scary. So it was gorgeous though. I'm such an animal lover. Like my first instinct was, oh my gosh, she's absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then I was like, oh, this is really scary. I mean, they're impressive. Really impressive. So I'm on the Coyote Trail and he is probably about 5.5 feet away from me, like really close, right? And I'm riding toward him on a bicycle, and he's sitting in the middle of the Coyote Trail. And we had like a full week of over 100-degree weather. It was really bad, and the animal, you could see he was really lethargic. He was just kind of sitting on the trail like this. Like it was wild. Like I kept thinking, okay, notice that I'm here, because he'll go away, right? Like he was just out of it, and I'm getting closer and closer to him and thinking, all right, what am I going to do? I know the things you're supposed to, like, take off your cycling jacket and hold it up over your head and start yelling and make yourself as big as you can. Never run away from a lion or a bear. Make yourself as big as you can and scare him away. And so anyway, I was prepared. Honestly, I was prepared. I'm riding very, very slowly toward him, and he finally caught that I was coming, and he saw me, and it was the wildest thing. Sorry. It was so cool to see. It was scary and amazing. So this huge animal with, like, oh my gosh, so strong and beautiful, he literally jumped straight up from the trail, up and over. It wasn't like a pounce over here. It was up and over. And it was just, I'll never forget it. It was so scary. And while he's jumping up, you could literally see every muscle in his body. Every muscle flexed as he did this. And it was just so scary. So scary, as you can imagine, I'm sure. So anyway, I get a little bit further away to an opening, and I call my dad, who was alive at the time and my biggest hero. Love him so much. It was his birthday yesterday, by the way, but he passed away several years ago from cancer. But sorry. Anyway, so I called my dad and I went, I just saw a mountain lion. And he said, Cristin, get out of there. And I said, I already did. It's okay. I already did. But can you imagine getting that call from your daughter? I can't even imagine. I'm sure he was scared out of his mind. So anyway, so that happened. And that day I got home from my bike ride and looked up local bike clubs, and I joined a bike club immediately. I think I even went on a ride with them that night just to get to know them. So actually my first ride with them, I did a ride in the amazing bike club in San Jose, California. They're amazing bike club. They have rides through the day, rides in the evening, rides at killer crazy mileage and speed, and then ones for those just out doing a social ride. There were so many opportunities all the time. So I did a morning ride with the club, and then I did one in the evening, and it was just a completely different set of people. You know, you've got the weekend warriors that are hammering out century rides every weekend, and then the ones that are retired and riding just to stay active during the day. And both of them were just amazing sets of people. I absolutely loved all of them, and I fit right in with both of them, so I just loved it. So anyway, I joined a group right away, and very rarely rode alone after that. I was pretty freaked out after that, seeing that mountain lion, but an amazing experience as well. So I was on this ride, an evening ride. They did like this burrito ride where they ride in Los Gatos, Saratoga, and then afterward they meet in Los Gatos and they all have dinner and they sit down to dinner. Well, I'm just getting to know people, and they were asking me what I was doing. I said that I was getting ready for this century ride. And the guy next to me, he's young, strong, probably rides all the time, just an amazing guy. And he looks over at me and he goes, "Have you heard of a double?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." So a double is, instead of a century, double century, it's a 200-mile ride. So you start in the dark and you generally end in the dark, especially in California where there's hills and, you know, crazy, the rides there are not always super easy. So you literally ride for 15 to 18 hours. I mean, just you're riding for a very long time. And I'm like, are you insane? Like, I had never heard of anyone doing such a thing. I thought that was so crazy. And of course, it planted the seed, right? So I was determined. I was like, I'm doing that. That's so cool. So I finished my century and I start doing more training, and I'm riding all the time. So I got my bike and I did my first century 5 weeks after getting my bike. And then I did my first double century 5 months after that. So I trained. And I think it was like the last day of February, maybe March, I don't remember, but I set out to do a double century, and that guy that had told me about it offered to ride it with me. And there were several people in our club that did it that year So in California, there's a bunch, it's called California Triple Crown. So there's this whole series where there's several, probably 15 or so rides, double century rides that you can go do, and you earn points for these rides. And if you complete 3 of them, you earn the California Triple Crown, and you have the right to buy this jersey, which of course I bought. So anyway, it's a pretty incredible system that they have. And it's all volunteer led. It's pretty impressive. So anyway, so he takes me out and we're doing this double century, and I was really prepared. I'm an overachiever. I was definitely prepared. I wasn't going to fail on this thing. There was no way I was going to fail. And so I was very prepared, did lots and lots of writing. And if you wonder like how to prepare for something like that, I'll tell you, it's butt in saddle. That is what it is. Get your butt in the saddle as much as you can, because when you're first starting out, everything hurts. Like I'm in that right now because the season hasn't started and I haven't been riding as much. So your shoulders hurt, your neck hurts, your girl parts hurt, and holding your body up, everything hurts. And yet the more time that you have your bum in that saddle, your body gets used to it, and you get stronger and build the muscles necessary for this. And you learn to handle pain in a different way. So I was prepared. I was definitely very prepared. And we did this ride, and he was determined. It was the cutest thing. He was determined to he said, no one doing their first double century should ever pull. And pulling is the person in the front that's fighting the wind, and you're just carrying all the people behind you. And I have done my share of pulling. I like to pull. I'm kind of built for pulling. If you see the full me, the top of me is pretty small, but the bottom of me is not. I have pretty good sized legs. I'm definitely built for pulling. And so I've done my share, but on that ride, he was determined to stay in front and just pull me through this ride. And I'm like, all right, no problem. Well, we had a great ride. until mile 88. So me being the clueless, naive person that I definitely am, I had a like I wanted all my little snacks. I'm really picky. I'm a super picky eater. And so like at these rest stops, they have different foods that help cyclists. Well, knowing me and just how I wanted to have everything I was going to need to have. So I had loaded up my little bike bags with stuff, which is really stupid because then you're weighing yourself down too. But I didn't know. Anyway, so I had this little bag on the front handlebar of my bike, and I had tied it on with, I thought zip ties, but I don't remember now. But whatever it was, it broke. So the bag on the front of my handlebar broke, and can you guess where it went? Right into the spokes of my wheels. So I'm riding along, clueless, didn't have any idea that there was something wrong. And as soon as it broke off and went into the spokes of my tire, you can imagine what I did. Whooshing! I went flying over the handlebars, flying. It was like the tire just stopped so suddenly, and I didn't even know. After I got up, I didn't know what had happened. I knew I had to have hit something, but I didn't know what. So anyway, my bike just stopped, and flung me over the handlebars. Luckily, I was in karate at the time, and we had just learned the karate roll. And luckily, I saw the pavement coming right at my face, and I ducked into this karate roll while I was being flung over the handlebar, and saved my face for the most part, not all. So when I got up, this guy found me. So the guy I was riding with, Benjamin, he was in front of me the whole ride. Well, this happened right before this descent. So there's this descent coming up, and he went down the hill. So he didn't know I wasn't there with him, and I had crashed during the time that he's descending. So this guy found me, a guy that was working the SAG, it's called, supporting gear. They drive around in cars to make sure everybody's okay and not off track and don't get lost and all of that, or no injuries or flats or whatever. So he found me, and I don't know if I lost consciousness. I remember him picking me up. He picked me up and kind of dusted me off, and then he's banging my bike to make sure my bike is okay, and he goes, "You're okay, go on." And I'm like, what just happened? Like, I didn't even know why I crashed, how I crashed, what I hit, what happened. I was so out of it. And all I know is, so Benjamin had to climb back up that super steep hill because I wasn't there. So he climbed up this hill, and he goes, "Thanks for that." So it was kind of funny, but anyway, they said I was safe to go, so I continued on. So it was mile 88 of a 200-mile ride, my first ever 200-mile ride. And I get to the first rest stop, or it was probably the second or third rest stop at that point, but I pull into the first rest stop from after my crash, and everybody just, they all came running to me. And I don't know, they must have like walkie-talkied in to whoever to tell them this girl is coming in, she's on a pink bike, blah blah blah. And everybody checked me out every single time I got to a rest stop, and they never gave me a mirror. Which is really smart because I didn't know. I was all bloody. I had contusions. I had this big welt on my knee. I was pretty banged up. So I ended up finding out that I had bruised several ribs. I don't think they told me how many. None of them were broken though. That was really good. But the doctor told me that when you badly injure ribs, it's the exact same process. The recovery time is 2 weeks less, but the process is the same. Like the feeling is the same. Your friends joke and try and make you laugh, and you think you're going to die. Like it's really painful. So anyway, so I'm at mile 88, right? I have this crash. I go to the rest stop, and literally everybody, they're loading me up with probably Advil. Everybody's checking me out, everything. And I was fine. I felt really, really good, surprisingly, but I'll tell you why. So every single rest stop. So we get very far along in the ride. I think we're about 180 miles into the ride, and we get to another rest stop, and the same thing, that everybody's checking on me. And I'm like, so everybody's exhausted. I mean, a 200-mile bike ride is extremely difficult, right? So everybody's super tired and like getting lethargic and wanting this to be over. And I'm dancing. I'm like, I'm having the best time ever. Well, when your body goes through something traumatic like that, you have those endorphins, right? So I was not feeling any pain. I was feeling no pain. My body was in overdrive of trying to heal with continuing on. So I did great. We finished the ride. We made amazing time. We had a fantastic time the whole time, even with the crash. It's something I'll certainly never forget. Well, that night, my daughter and I drove. She had come with me. She didn't do the ride, but she came as my support. And she drove me all the way back home. And I get home and I crawl into bed with my husband, and I'm bloody, and I literally hadn't seen a mirror. I think I finally saw one after the ride, but I wasn't feeling any pain. I was like, yeah, it's all right. I feel pretty good. And surprisingly, well, once you stop, all of that goes out the window. Like you feel all of it as soon as you stop, and all of that tightens up. And the road rash, oh boy, road rash is where you have an injury and all your skin is coming off, right? So I had a lot of road rash. I had a lot of pain. That my ribs were insanely painful. The contusion sticking out on my leg, you name it. I was hurting. But I crawled into bed, and my husband looks at me. He's like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Yeah, I had a crash. I'm okay. It's all good." Well, then I go and I'm doing rides with the club like a week after that, and they're evil people. All my friends, they're like cracking jokes and trying to make me sneeze, make me laugh. I mean, I was in so much pain, and I was okay as long as I didn't breathe too deeply or whatever, like just a lot of pain from the ribs. So it was quite an experience. It was something I will never forget for sure. I'm really, really proud of accomplishing it and finishing and not giving up, and all the people that made that happen. Melissa coming all the way there to support me on it, and all the people that knew not to give me a mirror so I could see how banged up I was. I mean, I felt really great, and it was a really interesting experience for my first double century. So I wanted to share that with you. Hopefully you find that inspiring. You know, when life is hard on you, you're learning something, you're growing from it, you're building strength from it. You become who you're meant to be from these struggles that we have in life. So just wanted to share that. Next time, I'm going to tell you about my first triple century. And then we'll be close to moving on to a different topic. But anyway, pretty amazing experience, and I'm just so thankful for the people that helped me through that. It was pretty cool. And my shirt today, this is a cycling one. Since I'm telling you my cycling story, I thought I should wear one of my cycling shirts. So this one is from an Etsy shop, and it's so fun. I have a lot of bicycle designs, but I thought this was really fun with the flowers that came out like this in the wind. It's a fun shirt. I will add information. The shirt itself was from Fred Meyer, I'm pretty sure, a bunch of years ago. But the design, like I said, it's from Etsy. I will add a link down in the video notes so that you can purchase the bicycle design if you'd like.